because we didn't have any cornmeal. But it wasn't flour. It was powdered sugar. Oh, she'd kill me if she knew I was telling the story.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
This is Amy Moykich from Atlanta Gynecology and Obstetrics in Lilburn, Georgia, and you are listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Cardin. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, David.
Slow down on the coffee. Slow down on the coffee.
Oh, we're having these really bad storms right here, and just as you said that, it was like thunder, and I'm thinking you're hearing it. So,
Yeah, no, didn't hear it. So we got a lot to talk about today, so let's move it right along.
all right.
Let's talk about, first thing, the 2020 COVID session dates for the HIPAA bootcamp. So
Yes.
going to be online, August 18, 19, and 20. So as of right now, there is still a chance that you can get the early bird pricing.
Yes.
So
Till July 18th or somewhere right in there. It's on the website. Go there.
yeah, thehipabootcamp.com. We've
Yes.
mentioned it here for a while. So it's there, thehipabootcamp.com.
Well, and I think that we're taking a unique approach to this online meeting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's going to be an experience. So that's all I can say. It's going to be an experience.
Well, we're going to make it be as close to actually being with us as possible.
Yep. It's not going to be your typical Zoom meeting or webinar. It's not going to be that.
No, it will, but it won't. It is, but it's not. Just know that, we're going to ship you stuff, and everybody will have different things, and it's just going to be fun. I'm excited.
Mhm. Yep. So
I'm a fan.
make sure your webcams and your mics are ready.
That's right. Because don't be thinking you're not going to be on camera talking with us. It's going to
Yep.
be just like you are here.
Mm-hmm.
So be
We see
prepared
you.
for
You
that.
see me. Yes, we will see each other.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, for more information about that, and it will be the only one we do this year. So, thehipabootcamp.com.
And I did like William Price's comment. I guess David will bring his shirt.
Maybe. Good thing
Maybe.
is, if I don't, then I'll wear one of Donna's.
We'll find something for you.
Yep. So, yeah, I don't think I'll live that one down. That was one of those "you got to be kidding me" moments.
I know. It was great. I gotta
6
go to
o'clock in the
Walmart.
morning. I know, 6 in the morning. I'm getting up and I'm getting dressed, and I'm like, "Are you serious? I left all my shirts 4 hours away. Dang it!"
You the man. You the man. You always create interesting scenarios for us to deal with.
Yeah. Yep. It's always a story.
Indeed.
So anyway, we're going to skip everything else, and because we want to have a little conversation real quick about something that's happening, take a moment to address some greater issues that's happening around the country right now. And, our lengthy discussion on the topic before we hit record would probably surprise a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because we've got very different experiences, life experiences, and sometimes different opinions. And, I was in law enforcement for a while, and so I have a unique perspective, and it doesn't mean that I'm in agreement with what happened. I'm absolutely not at all.
Mm.
But, the important thing is that we do have conversations that are respectful and honest. And I think that it's shifting somewhat, and I'm not following this as much as a lot of people are, but I think it's shifting to a racial conversation more than a law enforcement conversation, but I don't know that that's where it needs to be going. I think it has to really kind of be both.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's a lot of problems we're facing right now with policing and racism, and, it's become the second pandemic.
In the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. So we have two pandemics now. But and they're not simple. None of this stuff is simple to resolve, and it's not a quick and easy solution.
No, not at all. But, after our conversation today and trying to decide what to say, what we do know is that until we learn to have conversations with other people and realize that we do all have, different experiences that frame the way that we see the world, if until we take the time to sit down with someone, I mean, even in your own family, my brother and sister have different experiences than I do, and have a conversation about these hard topics without the attitude of I'm right and you are wrong, because that's where things fall apart. It's no longer a conversation. We need to understand we are different, each and every one of us, but we also deserve to be respected as human beings and be having these open and honest conversations. It's the only way that we can move forward and stop this I'm right, you're wrong attitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, before we hit record, one of the points I made was that, if you and I were having a discussion about, what do you believe is the best movie ever made? And you said, the Titanic.
Oh, never.
And then I would say, no, it's definitely, the Bruce Lee movie or whatever. I don't know. Just trying to pick something. But you'd be like, look, Enter the Dragon was definitely not the best movie ever made. But, or if I asked you what your favorite restaurant or food was, the point is people don't get up in arms about those types of disagreements. We just realize that people have different tastes, and you just realize that, hey, they like something and I don't, or they have a different opinion about something, and it's okay. You're okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're saying is basically have the same approach to these types of conversations where you understand there's a difference there and you're just okay with the difference.
Yeah. It's having compassion and empathy for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, between the two of us, we do have compassion and empathy for the other when times are tough. We are supportive. I know y'all don't know. I would laugh when you fall. So,
but I'll help you up.
When both of us have gone through tough times, we're very supportive of each other, and that's what we should be doing, is to understand that everybody's not experiencing the same life or the same problems or the same fears, and get to understand that difference and respect it.
Yeah, and another point that I made when we were talking is that people's struggles are big to them. Other people's struggles are small to them. So what you're experiencing is absolutely a big deal for you.
Mm-hmm.
Even though other people may not think it's a big deal because it's not impacting them or it's not them in the middle of the firefight.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just be mindful of that. You don't have to have a competition.
Right.
I got this one person in my extended family that if anybody's sick, they always have to be sicker.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And so it's not a competition of who's suffered the most or who's got the worst end of the stick. I mean, we all have issues, and sometimes you're on the good side of it, and sometimes you're on the bad side of it. But just be open-minded and listen and try to be empathetic and just understand that we're the human race, and every day you should be trying to do something to make yourself a better person and thus make the world around you a better place.
Yeah, contribute to the positive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we all need to do. And yes, there are serious issues that have to be dealt with. But until we learn to do this, I don't know how we can deal with them.
Yeah, I don't either. But there is hope that there are a lot of people on both sides that really want that. Mm-hmm. And of course, there are factions and other people that don't want that, or they shy away from it. They're fearful of it, whatever the case might be. But at the end of the day, I'd like to believe that justice, truth, honesty, and all that stuff just prevails at the end of the day. But it's a nasty battle to get there.
So if you want to reach out to us and, talk to us or whatever, we're here and ready to have an open and honest conversation.
Yes. So,
Which, we have to deal with topics in our own way, just like other people have their own way of dealing with things. And David and I both, the way that we deal with the scary things in the world is laughter and trying to find, please, somebody fall down. I'm miserable. And we need people to understand that, that is the way we deal with things, which is probably the biggest reason we get along.
mm-hmm.
And I have another friend that when I am just miserable, I call him up and we talk about stuff, but eventually somebody's going to say something that'll make us both start laughing because I need that, because it's my release instead of being like a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a different kind.
Yeah. And the other thing too is make an effort to start dialogues with people who don't look like you and do things like you and run in the same circles as you. I mean, Donna and I, in some cases, are polar opposites, and you would never believe that when you see us together. It's like two best friends, but in some areas, we just will not probably ever see eye to eye, but that doesn't define our relationship.
No, not by any means.
Nope.
So we hope that by everyone stepping up and trying to participate in open and honest conversations, we can make progress towards a more reasonable human experience.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We won't solve all the problems at one time, but as you like to say, we can start taking bites of the elephant.
Yes. One bite at a time. So I appreciate that when I came in this morning and talked to David, I said, we have to say something. And it took us a while.
We discussed it for an hour and something.
Yeah. But
it wasn't that we were arguing about should we or should we not. It was just more of a, let's flesh it all out and, not have different life experiences than Donna. And so, we like to explore those.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
At least I do.
Yeah.
I like to hear and understand the other perspective. And so that takes time. And that's kind of pretty much the message we're trying to say right now is that give it time, give somebody time, let them tell the story and don't discount the story.
No.
And don't make comparisons. Well, you think that's bad. Listen to this. No, it's not that. Look, it's their story. Listen to it and let it be what it is and understand that for them, it's bad and it's a struggle. And, and I have friends that have much better life than me, and I got friends that have a much worse life than me. And I don't, I know even the people that even the ones that I feel like have a better life than me often have struggles that I am thankful I don't have to deal with.
Yeah, you don't know what's happening behind closed doors.
No. And I do know from experience that when tragedy strikes, though, it's amazing how everything else doesn't mean near what you thought it did.
Right.
But it's unfortunate that it takes that. But I know it just in my life personally, when one of my sons had a drowning incident, there was a lot of bad stuff going on in my family and things like that. And it just, none of that mattered. It just completely dropped off the radar instantly.
And let's be clear. Your son, he's alive and healthy.
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't lose one of your triplets.
Yeah, I guess it's called a near drowning.
Yeah.
incident. So I did learn that it's not a drowning. I'm like, okay, but he drowned and he died and he came back. So, but anyway, it was terrible, terrible, terrible ordeal. But it could have turned out much, much, much worse. But just during those 2 or 3 days where you didn't know if you were leaving the hospital with your son or not, it really, really made me go, you know what? These other issues and things that that are going on just doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all.
No.
And
It's got to stop. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So gives you a different perspective on life and sometimes even on people, because there were some people that stepped up during that time that I was shocked that, you know, it's like, oh, well, you know, just yesterday I was the person you hate. Now today you're sorry. And I let it be what it is. I didn't go, oh, you know.
Yesterday you hated me. I don't want your help today.
Right. Yeah. You didn't like me yesterday, then screw off somewhere. No, I mean, look, I let people, sometimes the people that are persecuting you need the healing the most. So anyway, we could go on a complete and total thing about this, because everybody has experienced something in their life that's tragic. Sometimes it's ongoing tragedy. Sometimes it's an incident, and sometimes it's a lifestyle of tragedy. But we all have a duty to do our part to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah, we're human beings, and we should show compassion and empathy. You know, there is evil in the world, and we know that. Yep. But the vast majority of us are not that. So let's focus on finding that part of us.
And yeah, it's everybody's responsibility. You know, I think part of the problem a lot of times is that people are waiting for somebody else to solve the issue. You know, you fix it and let me know when it's fixed.
Yeah. I'll be right here to tell you if you're doing it wrong.
Right. Which is a great segue, actually.
Yes, into
the actual topic, which is cybersecurity is everyone's job and everyone's responsibility. And that's going to be our topic for today. So take a deep breath, because, you know, we don't talk heavy stuff much.
No, we're not good at that.
It is not somewhere we're normally at.
That's why I had to interject, because when it is uncomfortable, we default to humor, and people sometimes don't, you know, acknowledge. Then they're just going to criticize. But no, we're having an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah,
and that's what we all have to do.
Yeah, we're definitely the people that laugh at funerals, and we shouldn't.
No, I get in so much trouble. Yeah. So
anyway, let's talk about this, because from the archives of the internet, somehow you uncovered a nice NIST publication.
Nice it's NIST, nice from NIST, but it's the nice people at not the nice. I mean, they're all nice. You know, you're just one of those things. But
yeah, the acronym NICE people.
Yes.
Which is the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education.
Yeah, there you go. I'm glad you looked that up.
Yeah, but this, you know, it is the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education Working Group. So they didn't call it the NICE WUGA.
And we're off. So, but I do have to give a shout out to the new HIPAA sheriff in town. Because she did send a thing in asking about, you know, what kinds of things can we do that's positive reinforcement to build this. So I've been trying to come up with something. And, you know, I had this since 2018, and we just never had an opportunity to cover it. So,
so this is for you. This
it's
whole
everybody's
episode is for
responsibility is, you know, that kind of a, you know, rally the troops kind of thing. And this was a really cool document. I mean, I am very impressed by the way it's structured and the messages in it and what it's intended to be used for.
And it's so colorful.
I know, especially when I highlight it. It makes it even more colorful. The pastel theme is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I love it. From the very beginning, the introduction, it begins with.
Yeah, the very first sentence.
Uh-huh.
We are the greatest vulnerability in any organization.
That's it, period. That's its own sentence, its own paragraph.
Yeah.
There you go. And I thought it was great. And it's ironic now. I want everybody to realize, and let me reiterate, this was published in 2018. And it just came back across my radar this week.
That's forever ago in internet years.
Hell, you know, January's forever ago at the rate we're going, you know. Ready for 2020 to move along. I thought 2019 was bad. But
It makes me scared for 2021.
I know, right? Surely. But they say that this guidebook, it's designed to, what each of us should do to protect the organization based on the type of work we do.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about that many times, that we have to train based on your job role, because it's again, what does it matter to me? How does it affect me? And
Right.
people respond better to that.
Of course.
Understand my job. And when you're trying to make me do all these extra things, you don't understand what you're doing to me. Take the time to listen. And I have to tell you, this totally ironic how this all flew together. We didn't decide one and find the other, I'm telling you. So they say the benefits of the guidebook, they help you know what to do based on your role. And it does talk about all functions. It's got a section that's really cool about each job function, and the must do first plain language is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And turns the organization's, I love this line, turns the organization's greatest vulnerability, which again, we started with that, its people, into the organization's greatest asset.
Yes.
But
Which means that people can be one or the other. So if you're not the asset,
we know what you are.
Then you are the vulnerability.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really hard to have a middle ground with that. But I did like that they even go into why do we need this, and talk about how, this is not a technology problem, right? 2018. And then we get into this that I couldn't believe it when they used this. Consider how dependent our public health is on the active participation of everyone. We are all educated and encouraged to exercise good hygiene, such as washing hands and seeking preventative care through immunizations. And even children are well versed in best practices for covering their mouth when you sneeze, and hand washing, and so forth. Wow.
Yeah. I wonder if they knew.
Right? Even when well-trained medical professionals are delivering exceptional care in a robust healthcare system, the spread of disease is primarily prevented through good hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, for good cyber hygiene, when each of us take appropriate care, we protect the larger community. I'm like,
yeah, enough said.
Wow.
Could not have said it better myself.
Yeah. I just was like, okay, this seems perfect. But they also then point out this isn't about technical people, because a lot of people think, oh, well, we don't have any technical people, we can't be secure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a lot of ways that is, but it's how you go about not having those people.
Right.
Because we do need them. We all know we need us. That's right, David.
Yeah.
We're not saying we're not important. But you can implement safeguards and security that have nothing to do with technical people being able to do that constantly. So that gets back to the largest attack surface. It's the people.
Yeah.
People.
I think maybe they should add another safeguard to HIPAA. There should be you have the administrative, the physical, and the technical. They should have the non-technical.
Yeah. That, and that would make it, it's making this stuff more approachable is a big problem when it's based on the law, which is totally not approachable to read the law.
No, that was my first foray into understanding HIPAA back in 2011 or so. I picked it up and kind of a few paragraphs in, I was like, yeah, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah. I know. I'm a nerd. I read it and do my job. But they do point out, this is intended for organizations, whether it's a big government or publicly or nonprofit, small business, family-owned business. Everybody's got the same essential activities. And that's what they break it down to, the functions. Generating revenue, communicating with external customers and stakeholders, delivering products and services, leading people, and managing financial and legal matters. All of that is done on computing systems today, right? And they routinely expose us.
Yes.
So it was really, from the beginning, reading the introduction to the guidebook, I was like, now I know why I put this on the list of things for us to cover, and then I'm not sure why I forgot about it.
Something better come along.
I know. It's probably some settlement came, or I don't know. Something, stuff happens. But the good news is I had it to find later. But the other important part is they break it down and point out that full-time, part-time leaders, everybody, so they're looking at the function and the role within the function. So I think it's pretty impressive the way that they came up with breaking it down into the 7 categories.
Yes.
And they're designed so you just pluck that one thing out and send it to that group.
Mm-hmm. Here you go. Read this and do it.
I know. Here, go forth and prosper. But within each section, then they look at the business functions. And so each section includes things that apply specifically and then things that apply to everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's why you can just pull it out and send it. And we all like that. Simple, quick. Yep. But I do like, this is not intended to replace your security policies.
Got to have that.
Yeah, because how many people would say, yeah, we have security policies.
Here you go.
Yeah. But again, it's about building that cybersecure culture. And we've talked about it. What is that phrase? Ad nauseum. I'm trying to always come up with a word to drive David crazy in every episode now.
I see that. But I like the way they break it down I think they do it in the order, even though it doesn't say necessarily this is the order, but
it is. First, you're right.
The first thing is mindset, because, having a cybersecurity mindset is part of what creates that culture. And so, I can always tell you when they don't have that mindset, when I hear questions like, do we have to reset our password again? I'm like, well, just putting another exclamation point on it every single time is not really a password reset. And then the second one is leadership. So that's, super important, because, what happens at the top tends to roll down.
But they point out that leadership piece there that, they set the tone, but don't try the deep technical knowledge is required thing. I don't understand computers, so I can't do that. No, that is not allowed.
Right.
You have hygiene issues, just like everybody else.
I don't understand how they make a bar of soap, but I can still use it.
I can't believe you pulled that one out of, but it's a good one. I like it.
And then this is the one we talk about the most, and they've got a third on the list, which is training and awareness. We're always talking about training and awareness, but it just goes to say that before you even start getting into training and awareness, you need to make sure the leadership is in line and that you have the right mindset. Otherwise, the training and awareness doesn't work.
Yeah, it's just somebody checking off. I'm sitting here.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here.
It's somebody was recently in a training class online, and it was for real estate, and he was telling me that the guy said, "Just want you to know that if you're here right now, then you're marked as present." Okay.
Oh.
And he kept saying it like, if you're here right now, you're present. So if you happen to leave, you're present. And I'm like, seriously? But unfortunately, there's some people that do that around, the types of training we're talking about. It's kind of like, okay, you were here, sign the sheet, whatever, and you kind of blow it off.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what gets into the fourth part, where it talks about performance management. So incentives and de-incentives, which have an impact on the human behavioral part of it. So, letting people know that if you do these things, that good things happen. When you don't use things, bad things happen.
The carrot and the stick.
Yeah. Sometimes you use the stick to dangle the carrot, and sometimes you use the stick to beat the crap out of them. And then the last one is the technical and policy enforcement. So that's your building a cybersecure culture outline.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's okay, here are the controls that we're going to give you to kind of say this is the behavior we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
They call it reinforcing.
Yeah. But before you even get to the point of, what technology can we put in place, you should already have the proper mindset, the right leadership, and training and awareness happening and performance management happening. And then you can start asking, can you put that thing in place?
Exactly. Because, now I don't have that foundation that makes it blend in and become part of the culture. It's kind of like this bolted on, where you go through areas of the country and you can see that house has been there a very long time.
Yeah.
And it started as a gray small cottage. And then somebody bolted like a modern style thing on the one side. And somebody bolted let's raise the roof and add a second floor. And it's just a hodgepodge. And that's what it ends up looking like when you don't have, as David said, the whole enchilada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He didn't say enchilada, but he meant it.
That's what I was thinking.
This is what it starts with explaining and taking you through that. And then you get into each of the individual, is this the function or is the role and the function?
The business functions. And so, it starts out at the top. So leadership, planning, and governance is the first section. Mm-hmm. And then we'll dive into each of these, but the 7 sections are leadership, planning, and governance is one. Sales, marketing, and communications is next. Then facilities, physical systems, and operations. Then finance and administration. Then human resources. Then legal and compliance. And then lastly, and certainly not the least, information technology, which some people was like, oh, is that what IT means?
I know, right? I get asked that a lot. Do you? When I say, I work in IT. What's IT? Or people that'll look over at somebody else and go, what's
IT? Infotech.
Uh-huh. There you go.
Yeah. So those are the 7 roles. And so I guess we'll dive down a little bit into each one of them because the whole document is only like 28 pages. So it's real concise, short, actionable stuff, which I like.
We're all a fan of that.
Yeah. Cause I'm like, if it can't be quick bathroom reading, I'm not going to do it.
I saw somebody posted a picture of a toilet in a small closet that was filled with bookshelves covered with books.
Awesome.
My grandfather always used to call it the library, and I immediately just thought about doing that in the little bathroom in their house when I was growing up. Where's your grandfather? He's in the library.
Yeah. So the first one is the leadership, planning, and governance, and that's where you start setting, the overall direction of where everything's going to go and how it's going to go, and establishing your priorities and who's got influence and what risk are there to mitigate. I mean, it starts at the top, and so that's where it starts with the document.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
And here's their point: if you are responsible for the overall strategic direction or maintaining controls and mitigating risk, this applies to you. So they start with, okay, if this doesn't apply to me, I can move on. Great. Mm-hmm. Even if I hand out the whole thing, or I can learn about what every group is dealing with, which is also helpful depending on your job role.
And what I really love is the thing down in the bottom corner that says, just in case you're confused, if your title includes words like director, board, chairman, chief, executive, commander, president, vice president. It goes on. And on. I mean, dude, whoever wrote this was like, look, let me make it perfectly clear for you.
I know.
If you don't know what your job role is,
they wrote it for people who truly don't understand.
It's like, man, that's pretty bad. Well, I'm not a leader.
Yeah, I think it's great. And then they go, these are the systems that you own, manage, or use.
Yeah.
That you should be thinking about.
Exactly.
So it is. It's fantastic little guide. And I'm really upset that I haven't been pushing it longer. But I love how they start like, okay, the role, this is what it's all about. And it goes through those things of managing and prioritizing and those kind of things. But then in every section, what do leaders, planning, and governments, what should they do?
Mm-hmm. And it's bullet points. I love bullet points.
I know. It's not long paragraphs. It's bullet points. Go by it.
It's the next best thing to a checklist.
I know. That you don't have to go back and, check off. But they understand cybersecurity basics and best practices well enough to enable sound decision making. Hello.
Yeah. It's because at the end of the day, the things that you decide to do in your business around cybersecurity is a business decision.
I was so there. But, we have these conversations all the time. I'm going to tell you, based on my experience and, the law and those kind of things, I'm going to tell you what I believe you should be aware of in order to make efficient and appropriate business decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And after I tell you, it's totally up to you at that point. It's your business. Ain't none of my business.
Mind your own business.
Now, you want to get my opinion? You'll get it.
Whether you ask for it or not.
No, I don't give it. And, I don't give it to them, when they're making wrong decisions and they'll say, this is what we're going to do. And they don't go, what do you think? I'm like, okay.
You don't have to ask. Just look at that look on her face.
That's why I don't turn the camera on. But, but the important thing that they're bringing up is you need these pieces. You have to have the best practices yourself, and you need this to make good decisions. And in order to do that, you should ask for reports on cyber risk and how they're managed within your organization. And how many times do you and I go, look, you really need to review this every month and encourage, oh, well, they're having their monthly meeting. Well, don't you need your report for that? Oh, no, they never look at that. They just look at the financials. Oh, really? Let's review. All of our businesses now run on technology. Didn't we just discuss that?
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to the second point. Now, there's a lot of bullet points under the bullet points, but I think we're only going to cover the big bullet points, not the smaller bullet points.
Okay.
Unless some of the small bullet points get our attention, and then we'll cover the small bullet points.
Oh, boy.
I feel like I'm in an infinite loop. So include cyber risk in risk management. That's what we just talked about. Develop and maintain organizational information security policies and standards. That is a recommendation of having written policies and procedures that has nothing to do with HIPAA.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do a great thing. I love watching that thing that we use in the boot camp about why it's important to have written policies and procedures.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely essential because it will not be done the same way. That's always like the story where the daughter-in-law asks for the recipe and mom always leaves out one ingredient. So it won't taste exactly the same. Sometimes it's a mistake, sometimes not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it matters, when you put the ingredients in.
The order, not just all at the same time.
I recall recently, because she don't listen to the podcast, so I can say this. but Lori was fixing something, and she was supposed to put cheese on it after she took it out of the fryer. And instead, she put cheese in the fryer.
Fried cheese.
So
that wasn't what she was cooking.
No, it was like asparagus or something, and she was supposed to put cheese on top of it after she finished with it, and she put cheese on top of it as it was cooking. It's like, there were little fried cheese balls.
That show on Netflix. I just found it, but I love it. It's called Nailed It.
Mm-hmm.
Where they bake, and they're trying to bake this thing that a chef made, and they're trying to do their best. They're not like professional cooks and chefs or anything, and they're trying to make this elaborate dessert, and it is hysterical.
Yeah, that's pretty much my house every night.
Yeah, well, after you called us when she was making the okra.
Yeah, and she ruined that too.
One night we were on a video chat watching Lori try to make okra. So anyhow, that was like at 10 o'clock at night on the weekend.
That's because she thought she was breading the okra in corn. Well, I guess it was cornmeal she was using. She thought it was flour because we didn't have any cornmeal, but it wasn't flour. It was powdered sugar. Oh, she'd kill me if she knew I was telling the story. So we had powdered sugar breaded okra for dinner.
Yeah, and your stepson didn't believe we called it okra.
Yeah.
There's no way you did. No, okra, where we grew up, was called okra.
Yep. So I called Donna. It's like, then just out of the blue, to call her. She said, hello. I'm like, can you please say how we pronounce okra? She's like, what? And then she goes, okra. And I just looked at him and I go, okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Okay.
So anyway, all right, let's get back out of that rabbit hole.
Oh my God. So somehow we got into that. See, this is what happens when we've been left to our own devices.
That's why it takes us so long to hit record.
Yeah, I know. So, but there is certainly a list that's bringing up the points that we talk about all the time about promoting cross-functional teams so that cybersecurity is part of the organization, adequately fund cybersecurity resource requests.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need that.
Yeah.
Plan for future needs.
Yeah. I mean, that in and of itself.
It's like all the people that were mad when they had to replace Windows 7.
Yeah. Well,
I
still go to business owners even now. I mean, some of these organizations have substantial, number of computers and equipment and all that. And I'm like, what is your budget for or plans for replacing this equipment? And they're like, when it breaks, we'll fix it. What is your plan? Yeah, but what's your plans in your budget? Well, we don't have one. We just find the money when we need it. It's like, geez Louise.
Yeah, that's kind of like a trucking company saying, well, that's what we do with our fleet.
Yeah. It just blows my mind. I mean, that your entire business, I don't care what it's in, it runs off of technology.
Yeah. Everybody. There's a few that still don't, but the vast majority, you need technology.
Mm-hmm.
So it continues with protect sensitive, strategic, financial, legal, and risk information.
Mm-hmm.
Protect.
Well, first, you have to identify it.
Yeah. And that gets back to, when we do ours and say, well, we want to know where all the PHI is, but what else do you have that's valuable? While we're here, let's do it. And protect access to online file sharing and decision support platforms by applying best practices.
Yeah.
But it's telling the leaders to do the things to protect the company at their level.
Yeah.
Which, we all need. And then each of them have a section on what we all should do.
Yep.
And
And typically when
good.
we're in, especially the boot camps, we typically hear that the leadership is the worst part of the cyber hygiene practice within the organization.
Yeah, I've
know,
gone in and they'll say, "Can you put all those rules in place for everybody but one person?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I'm just no.
Yep. I've heard it too. You know,
They're not going to be happy. All right, well, we can talk about that.
This partner has to have admin access to everything. No.
Why?
Oh, you ask why? You're nice. I just say no.
Well, I do. I ask why. You know, maybe there's something I can solve instead of just saying no.
Because I don't want to put my password in. Do you have to have different users?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But let's talk about the why.
Yep.
You know, it's part of that communication. You know, why?
But you were the kid, though, when you were younger, right? Why?
I was. I still am. You know, I wonder why that star is so bright tonight.
Yeah.
I wonder why that bug looks weird.
Yeah. Your mom's like,
it's 2 bugs.
clean up your room. Why?
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 Why? Why is that important? Why does that smell funny? What makes this? Yep. But I mean, that was yesterday.
Yeah, right. So, but anyway, on the leadership part, it ends up with a couple more bullet points. One is making sure that when you're traveling around, you know how to secure your connections to your enterprise, and then also use social media wisely.
Right. So, and that's the stuff we should all worry about. And it takes you through working from home, traveling, media, the reasonable things we should all worry about.
Yeah. Because as leaders, as this document says,
Mm-hmm.
you are ultimately responsible.
Well, and this is the cool piece that I liked every one of these I read, which is at the end of each anyway, when you get to the end of whoever you're talking about, there is a note to the leaders in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And you are ultimately responsible. It's kind of like starting the first sentence with, we're all the biggest vulnerability.
Yeah.
Work with the experts externally and those you hire internally to establish sound guidelines. Be familiar with those guidelines, implement them yourself, and ensure that your teams know what they're expected to do.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Just
mm-hmm.
wow. And then in a very bold italics, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right. Yeah, because nobody expects you to understand cyber as well as you understand your own job role.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody expects you to mitigate the risk to your business. And cyber risks are real.
Very much so.
Yep.
And the final sentence, your job depends on how well you address the real risk of an often unfamiliar subject.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're all addressing the risk of COVID right now, and we don't necessarily understand, the entire subject, but we know that the risks are real, and we're making steps, taking steps in our business to address those things. Now, just do the same thing when it comes to cyber hygiene.
Yeah, it's one of the most important ways that we do a whole cyber hygiene class that took the CDC guidelines for, cleaning an ambulatory center and applied the same concepts to cybersecurity. And, I like it. That's not a big deal anyway.
Yeah.
So that then takes us to the next role, sales, marketing, and communications.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, David, but I experience this a lot when we go in to do the training. Well, that's sales. They don't need the cybersecurity training. They don't need the HIPAA training.
Most of the time that is accurate, because when I'm talking to a salesperson and I say something like, are you guys HIPAA compliant? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. When's the last time you did HIPAA training? Oh, well, we're in sales. That's only for the operational people.
Uh-huh.
Like, really?
No. We make sure that you understand that everybody needs to participate. Everybody. Everybody means everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And, yes, HIPAA says everyone.
Yeah. And in case you're confused, it does give some title words.
Yeah, it does. It does that again. And then it takes you through, what you're supposed to do as a professional. Communicate the importance of cybersecurity matters to your stakeholders. Protect customer information and quotes, purchase orders, invoice payments. How many times do you have like salespeople just email you stuff that freaks you right on out?
Yeah.
Don't send me that. I don't want
Yeah.
you to send me my password in the email.
And just remember that, sales, marketing, and communications, dude, you're the brand and the reputation of the company. And you're the face of the company. Either you're doing it because you're in sales, or you're putting it out there, you're creating it because you're in marketing and communications. So it's super important that you're on board with what's happening internally.
Yes, absolutely. And it goes through the same process with them. And then the note to leaders at the end of that section, where it goes through and talks about more of those things about what you need to worry about out in the field, or when you're dealing with customer data. And implementing cybersecurity best practices is hard to do with external facing employees, particularly if they're out in the field. Yes, we know that. But then I thought this was really great. The most effective aspect of leadership is to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
Know the guidelines, implement them yourself, ensure that your teams understand what they're expected to do, and make sure your teams have what they need.
Yep. That's twice we've heard. Make sure that your teams understand what they're expected to do.
Exactly. Yes. So it's really cool that I just love this, the way they brought the message out. It couldn't be more, what do they call it? Plain English, simple language.
Yeah. Well, those people who's like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Now,
Well,
granted, this doesn't get into like how to do a lot of stuff, but look, that's kind of the thing that separates each and every different business. I mean, I could tell you, hey, make sure to, use encryption, but that doesn't, it's going to be different for every organization.
You do what's reasonable and appropriate to accomplish that goal in your organization.
Right. But the biggest challenge people have is not implementing the thing, it's coming up with the thing. And so this is, this is the step that most people struggle with, is like, well, what should we be addressing? And what should we be looking at? And what questions should we be asking?
Mm-hmm.
Coming up with the answers is not the hard part. It's coming up with the right questions.
Yeah. And, that's where people like you and I come in. And, I always see that as the most valuable thing we can bring is asking questions.
Yeah. Because what do we hear more than anything? Well, at least I do, and you probably do as well. I always hear people say, oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
You mean I'm supposed to worry about that?
Yeah. That's part of what I'm here to do, is make you think about things that you never thought about before.
Mm-hmm. So the note to leaders on the next one, and I again, it's just, I don't know, what is the word? Let's try a new one. Serendipitous. Or
all right, you're getting too far off the rails.
Right. But the way that this document kind of goes with where we are right now, because then it gets into facilities, physical systems, and operations. And it's like you're the brain, the power of the organization that's delivering the products and services.
Mm-hmm.
And making sure that everything is running in your operation. If that's not happening, you can't produce. And it's like a lot of these, the businesses that have had to shut down, they haven't been producing. And if they have, it's been, hopefully through their business continuity plans and stuff. But the point for the leaders in this area was, the note to leaders, rather, I thought was fantastic, particularly in today's world. Cultural barriers are as big as any other factor when it comes to cybersecurity in industrial environments and physical systems. It will require persistence education, and leadership by example to build bridges between operational technology and information technology professionals, as well as between cybersecurity and industrial safety advocates.
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere in our face today. So insist that your employees do this across all of the organization. Just like safety is a culture, it takes the leaders to bring that into play. Performance management, training, cybersecurity culture is no different than anything else. You have to get all the pieces to talk together and work together,
Mm-hmm.
and not sabotage one another. And in a lot of ways, I hate to see that happen, but you and I both heard technical people going, "Oh, watch this." You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, just watch me show. They think they can't do this. Well, let me show them. Let me show you how you don't do it. And it's just wrong.
Yeah. Well, there's also the whole shadow IT thing. We've heard people say, well, I've asked operations to give me, Wi-Fi because I need it, or IT is not going to do it, or they're dragging their feet, so I'll just do it myself.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, they're setting up a Wi-Fi access point inside the business that nobody knows about.
Because they need it to do their job. Which gets us back to the basic rules of a security program. Number 3, can't impede people being able to do their job effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So the next rolling, is finance. Everybody wants to know what finance is and administration's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But they're the ones that have, in a lot of ways, the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
More so. And there was a thing on the listserv this week. People are falling for those scams where you're paying invoices that are not, it's a phishing attack.
Yep.
And you lose money. And it's those kind of things that, particularly in finance, that can happen.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
Yeah, they're hugely at risk. Is that a thing?
Hugely?
It is now. So, see, there's that. I can use the big words and I can make up stupid words. So, but it goes through very much similar discussions as what you see in leadership or in governance, but it's about protecting sensitive, strategic, financial, legal, and risk information. So a lot of that is the same because roles often have similar requirements. And then, what we should all do, the same things are there. And then we get down to the notes of the leaders. And again, it just drives home how important it is that you are the default okay, and then there are words I can't say. And you're just gonna wait it out.
Go ahead, say arbiter.
Arbiter. Woo.
Arbiter.
Arbiter. I read bit and bite in there. So for resource demands among the other business functions. So everybody else is going to be asking you. And those decisions have to be influenced or made in, risk management and leadership planning and organization. So, there are subject matter experts, but you've got to listen just like everybody else and how you're going to help allocate resources when everybody's asking for money.
Yep.
Get smart. I wish it would just leave it at that. Get smart.
Yeah.
Get smart about cybersecurity and enterprise risk. Your job and the financial health of the organization depends on your ability to make reasonable recommendations and decisions where there are many trade-offs. And if you don't take the time as a financial person to learn and understand the risks and the methods that we use to mitigate those risks, how can you possibly do that? Right?
Yeah, you can't. I didn't know that was a question you wanted to answer to.
But I think the next one is interesting. Human resources. And, when you run a small business, we would read all of these sections because they all apply to us. But, sometimes you're asking about HIPAA stuff. Well, that's kept in human resources. Okay, but does it reference HIPAA? Well, no, it's in human resources. Okay, does it have the cybersecurity stuff? Well, it's in human resources. So, as you move through, it's pointing that and section out, just like the others, is you are part of the best practices in making sure people follow policies and procedures.
Mm-hmm.
And since we're running out of time, we'll hit the legal and compliance because these are the people we shouldn't have to be telling that much.
Yeah. Yeah. Legal and compliance are the ones that should be pushing out the podcast.
I know, right? And human resources and
Yeah.
IT. But the organization can improve on security, but be exposed to liability if they're non-compliant. And this gets back to security is not compliance and compliance isn't security.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what they say you need to do? Ask the difficult question.
Mm-hmm.
Have the difficult conversations. And then, of course, last but not least, it's IT. And it reminds them you provide expertise. It's not that people complain all the time. Well, so-and-so's in charge of IT, and so no one's allowed to touch anything. No one knows anything. That's not helpful.
Mm-mm.
And it means they have to maintain education and training. And there's so many places where they're still doing what they know how to do because they didn't move forward with the rest of us. But their credibility is essential. And if they're not aware of things when people like me and you walk in the door, they ain't going to look good.
Mm-mm.
So I encourage everyone to grab a hold of this. We'll have a version of it, a link to it on the website, or you can just search for the nice NIST. Cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. Nice NIST. And pay attention to every section. And then Appendix 1, doing the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets that. As citizens, consumers, and employees, regardless of function, you don't want to be patient zero.
No.
So this guide now is a great time to read this, follow this in every way that you feel is reasonable and appropriate.
That's the way to bring it back around.
There you go. So there's plenty to have here, and take the time. It's important in what we do to understand the needs of everybody that's involved in the organization so that we can properly secure it.
Yeah. And then the last thing they have in here is Appendix 4, which is where to learn more. And so resources, and there's a massive amount.
No, it's great.
There's like 3 pages of links to things, NIST and, U.S. Department of fill in the blank.
I know. They've got everything but help me with HIPAA on here.
They don't have that?
No.
Oh.
But, I guess we'll just have to create a version with it on.
Yeah, that's right. We not listen to none of these people.
There you go. All right. Well, we ran long, but it was an important conversation.
Yep.
So I appreciate all of our listeners and those who support us and share us out. It matters more than you know that we keep showing up because you're doing that.
Yep. Absolutely. Could not have ended it better myself. So lastly, I'll say the HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.